wrote Machiavelli, but you were taught the opposite. You were told that if you stayed calm, if you stayed agreeable, if you never made anyone uncomfortable, people would keep you close. That advice was good for them, not for you. Because in real life, the person who refuses confrontation doesn't create peace, they make an easy target. You've seen it. In your house, the one sibling who never speaks up ends up doing everyone's chores. At work, the employee who never says, "This is too much," keeps getting work dumped on them. In relationships, the partner who is afraid of a fight keeps saying, "It's okay," when it isn't. That's not kindness. That's leverage working against you. Machiavelli would tell you straight. When you avoid tension, you are not protecting the relationship. You are protecting the other person's power over you. Your silence tells them, "You can keep doing this. I won't challenge it." People map that very quickly. They figure out who will argue and who will fold. Guess which one they test more. This is the mercy illusion. You tell yourself, "I'm being the bigger person." You tell yourself, "I don't want drama." But what actually happens is that the other person learns they can have the benefit without the cost. No correction, no pushback, no moment where they have to see themselves. So they keep the behavior, and you keep the resentment. And here's the part most people don't want to admit. Power loves cowardice. Power is attracted to the person who won't push back. The boss who needs things done will go to the quiet worker. The demanding friend will go to the one who hates saying no. The manipulative partner will go to the one who is terrified of being left. They can smell your fear of confrontation like blood in the water. People place burdens on the person least likely to drop them. They assign guilt to the person most afraid to reject it. They pour their emotional chaos on the one who will listen for hours and never say, "This is not acceptable." That's why your life can feel heavy, even though you're not the one causing problems. You're just the one absorbing them. Machiavelli's world was open about this. Princes didn't avoid conflict, they managed it. They understood that rivalry, jealousy, and offense would always exist. So the ruler's job was to surface it, name it, and control it. That is governance, not pretending people will behave, but setting the frame for how they will act around you. Modern life is the same, just smaller. Your family is a small court. Your workplace is a small state. Your relationship is a small alliance. If you don't confront, someone else governs. If you don't say, "This is the line," someone else draws it where it suits them. Avoiding confrontation doesn't make you noble, it makes you ruled. When you confront the issue early, it stays small. When you swallow it, it grows teeth. People think confrontation breaks in relationships, but most of the time, it is the lack of correction that breaks them, because resentment has been building in secret. Power respects the person who says things plainly. Choose order over approval. Harmony is pleasant, but in politics and in life, it is rarely the truth. You were told that if you kept things smooth, if you did not bring up problems, if you stayed agreeable, people would value you more. But people do not reward what costs them nothing. They reward what resists them. Machiavelli would tell you, without emotion, that men continue their abuses as long as they encounter no resistance. That is the law you have been breaking for years. Look closely at the pattern. You tell yourself, "I want to keep the relationship." So you let a sharp comment pass. You let a missed promise pass. You let a small disrespect pass. At first, it seems wise. You avoided a fight, and the room stayed light. But the other person does not record that moment as your kindness. They record it as your limit. They think, "I can do that again." So what you call patience, they experience the absence of consequences. Gradually, they become later, ruder, and more demanding because you trained them to expect no pushback. This is how disrespect becomes normal. not through one great betrayal, but through many little tolerated moments. A partner keeps flirting online even after you said it bothers you. A boss keeps pushing work into your evenings. A friend keeps canceling on you at the last minute. You keep telling yourself, it is not worth a scene. But every time you choose not to make a scene, you teach them that you are a person who will never make a scene. You think you are preserving the bond. They believe they have met no resistance. In their mind, the territory is open. Underneath that, there is a quieter engine, fear. You are not really protecting harmony. You are protecting access. You are afraid that if you say something, you will lose the attention, the money, the approval, the sex, and the peace at home. So you swallow your words. You rewrite their behavior in your head. You say, you know he is stressed. You say, she has a lot going on. You say, my manager is under pressure. That is not understanding. That is bargaining with your own silence. Machiavelli would name it plainly, dependence. Whoever controls what you dread losing controls your tongue. If they know you fear being alone, they can be careless with you. If they know you fear losing the job, they can underpay you, and you will thank them. If they know you fear conflict in the house, they can explode at will, and you will rush to patch it up. Your silence becomes a resource they can spend to keep their comfort. This is the hidden economy of fear. You pay in compliance, they collect in convenience. You bend schedules, you bend values, you bend boundaries, and in return, you get to keep access to them. On the surface, it is harmony. Underneath, it is a tribute. You are the one sending offerings so that the minor household god does not grow angry. That is not love. That is the rule. Genuine power relationships do not work like that. Absolute loyalty survives being told the truth. A spouse who actually respects you may be hurt for a moment, but they will adjust because they want the union to work. A leader who cares about results may be annoyed, but they will listen because the standard matters. A friend who values you may push back, but they will stay because the connection is real. Respect can breathe inside confrontation. Only exploitation cannot breathe there. So when someone speaks about love, but the moment you say, this cannot continue, they sulk, punish, or disappear, you must read it correctly. They did not love you. They were renting your fear. They were staying as long as you were cheap, as long as you were silent, as long as you kept making everything smooth for them. The second you introduced cost, they left. That is not a tragedy. That is a measurement of the relationship's actual depth. You must let this truth settle in your bones. Peace without respect is a trap. It looks calm from the outside, but it is built on you abandoning yourself a little every day. When you finally speak, some people will leave. Let them. Better a small circle that can handle confrontation than a whole room that needs you to be mute. Better to be valued for your clarity than tolerated for your silence. Because the ones who stay after you speak are the ones who were never fed on your fear. Choose respect over false peace. Power is not only about what you can do to others, but it is also about what others can make you afraid to do. You tell yourself you avoid confrontation because you are mature, peaceful, or spiritual. But if you listen closely, there is an older voice underneath that calm surface, a voice that says, do not upset them, do not make them angry, do not risk being left. That voice is not wisdom. That voice is an old wound running your diplomacy. Think back. For many people, the first ruler they ever met was not a king but a parent with a temper. You said one honest thing, and the whole room changed. You asked one fair question, and the volume went up. You cried, and you were told to stop or face punishment. So your nervous system learned a rule: speaking costs more than silence. Machiavelli said a prince must know the dispositions of his people so he can govern them. As a child, you reversed it. You studied the rulers above you, and learned how not to provoke them. That training did not disappear. Now, as an adult, you still anticipate explosions that may never come. Your partner sighs, and you immediately soften what you were going to say. Your boss frowns, and you immediately apologize for something that is not your fault. You call it keeping the peace. But what you are actually doing is submitting in advance, the way you once did when you were small. You act like punishment is always just one sentence away, so you keep swallowing your own. This is how wounds choose for you. You think you are making logical choices in the present, but your body is reacting to a past where love was unstable and authority was loud. You were not allowed to test boundaries, so you stopped forming them. You were not allowed to confront, so you built a personality around pleasing. You learned to read everyone else's mood and ignore your own. That is not kindness, that is survival residue. Machiavelli warns that what is known about a ruler can be used against him. The same is true for you. Once people see that you never bring things up, they stop correcting themselves around you. A partner thinks he will forgive. A sibling thinks she will let it go. A manager thinks he will stay late. They begin to plan with your silence as a constant. Your predictable avoidance becomes part of their strategy. This is why some people keep raising the price on you. They show up later. They get sharper with their tongue. They ignore the favors you do. They are not necessarily evil. They are simply operating with the information you provided. You do not confront. In Machiavellian terms, you have revealed the gate that is never guarded. Every rival, every selfish relative, every entitled friend will walk through that gate, because why wouldn't they? There is no risk. Notice how this plays out in dating. One person knows you are terrified of being alone. They sense it in the way you always text first, always forgive faster, always explain yourself. So when you finally say, "I did not like that," they do not change the behavior. Instead, they pull back affection. They go cold. They delay replies. They know the silence will activate your oldest fear: abandonment. You break first. You say sorry for bringing it up. They keep the power. That is emotional blackmail. It does not have to be loud. Sometimes it is crying at convenient moments. Sometimes it is a sudden distance. Sometimes it is the silent treatment that lasts just long enough to make you panic. What they are really saying is, remember how much you dread this feeling. I can create it whenever you challenge me, so stop challenging me. Your wound obeys, your adult mind disappears. The child who needed to keep the house calm takes over. The tragedy is that you start to think their reactions prove you were wrong to confront. You say, "See, every time I speak up, people get upset." But that is not the lesson. The real lesson is, you are surrounded by people who benefit from your silence, and they are using your unhealed fear to keep it. Machiavelli would advise a ruler to recognize such tactics, not surrender to them. If someone always uses emotion to dodge accountability, you mark them as a threat to order. So the work here is not to become aggressive for no reason. The work is to stop letting your injuries decide your diplomacy. You must know which past tone still terrifies you. You must know which withdrawal still haunts you, because if you do not, others will find it for you. They will press on it, and you will call it love. They will weaponize it, and you will call it fate. All because the child in you still believes, I have to stay small to stay safe. When you begin to test this, some people will accuse you of changing. They will say you are cold now, difficult, proud now. Hear it for what it is. Surprised that the old lever no longer works. Let them be surprised. Better to endure a few loud reactions than to spend a lifetime being quietly controlled. Power, in the Machiavellian sense, is not cruelty. It is clarity about what you will and will not be bent by. Know your wound so no one else can rule you with it. Silence does not make the storm go away. It only makes the clouds heavier. You think you are avoiding conflict, but you are really storing it. Every time you say, "It's fine," when it is not. Every time you tell yourself, "This is small," you add another stone to the bag you carry. At first, it was light. At first, you can still smile. But over the years of avoiding hard conversations, you build a private world inside your head, a place where you speak with power, demand change, say the perfect line, and then return to reality and say nothing. Your mouth stays polite while your mind screams. That split is where exhaustion begins. This is the quiet accumulation of disrespect. It rarely comes from one massive betrayal. It comes from tiny, ordinary moments that you decide not to confront because you do not want to start something. Your partner makes a joke at your expense in front of friends. You laugh it off. A coworker oversteps and hands you extra work because you're so good at it. You tell yourself to be a team player. A sibling borrows money and fails to repay it. You say, "No problem," even though it is. None of these moments would have destroyed the a relationship if you had addressed them, but added together, they build a hidden ledger in your chest. You begin to keep your score a secret because you were not brave enough to balance the account in public. Machiavelli would call this poor governance. A state that allows small abuses to continue without correction teaches its subjects that the laws are flexible. Your life works the same way. When you do not address small acts of disrespect, you teach everyone watching, including yourself, that disrespect is allowed. And once people believe it is allowed, they do it without guilt. They stop self-censoring. They stop minding your comfort. They speak more sharply, arrive later, and expect more favors. You feel more and more wronged, but they feel more and more normal. You become the only one carrying the weight of something no one else was asked to see. Then something subtler happens. You start losing sovereignty. Machiavelli warned that a prince who cannot punish or correct will first lose fear, then lose control. People obey not because you shout, but because they know you are willing to correct. If you are not, they stop factoring you in. Apply this to your life. How many times have people made decisions that affect you without even asking you, because they already knew you would adapt? Family members are making plans with your time in mind. Partners agreeing to events that will cost you labor. Colleagues volunteering you for work. They do it because history says you will bend. A ruler who never enforces a boundary becomes ceremonial, present, but powerless. When you never impose consequences, you become the most convenient variable. You are the one whose schedule can be moved. You are the one whose comfort can be ignored. You are the one whose feelings can be talked about later. That is what loss of sovereignty looks like in everyday life. You are present, but you are not ruling. You are involved, but not decisive. You belong to every circle, but none of those circles treats you like a force. You become useful, not respected. A person cannot live like that forever. So the mind starts to split. One self says, "Stay calm, don't make trouble, they will leave." The other self says, "Why does no one value you? Why do you let this happen?" The gap between those two selves widens with every swallowed offense, and when the gap gets wide enough, one of two things happens: the snap or the fade. The snap is the moment everyone remembers. It is the day you finally speak, but the words come out with years of weight behind them. You raise your voice. You list every single thing from 5 years ago. You cry, slam a door, or quit the job. Everyone around you is shocked. They say, "You never talk like this. This came out of nowhere." It did not come out of nowhere. It came out of 500 moments you did not allow to happen when they were small. Because you dreaded a minor confrontation, you created a big one. What could have been a calm correction last year becomes a volcanic eruption today. The other path is the fade. No yelling, no scene, no speech. You start disappearing. You stop sharing opinions because they don't listen anyway. You stop initiating intimacy because she doesn't care. You stop trying at work because they'll just give me more. You become a quiet ghost inside your own life, fulfilling duties but not feeling present. On the outside, you look peaceful. On the inside, you have accepted defeat. This is the slow tragedy of never confronting. It not only hurts the relationship, but dissolves your sense of self. Both the snap and the fade come from the same root: fear of confrontation. In the beginning, you thought avoiding tension would make things easier. It made them heavier. You thought silence would protect the bond. It rotted from within. You thought people would just know you were hurt. They did not. They kept talking because you kept letting. That is why Machiavelli insisted on timely correction, not to be cruel, but to prevent chaos later. When you correct early, you pay a small price. When you never correct, you pay with the whole relationship. So this is the moment to see your pattern with clear eyes. Your exhaustion is not random. Your resentment is not proof that you are ungrateful. It is evidence that you have carried too much unsaid for too long. The way back is no longer silent. The way back is to speak before the bag gets heavy, to correct before people forget you have a will, to let people adjust to the truth of you instead of the quiet version of you. You are allowed to reclaim the authority you surrendered, even if some people dislike the new terms. Confront early so you don't collapse later. Peace that exists only when you stay silent is not love, it is control. You were made to believe that if you were agreeable, if you were easy, if you never brought up the uncomfortable thing, people would stay. Some did stay, but not because they loved you. They stayed because your silence was convenient. Machiavelli would say, "A bond that depends on your weakness is weak." The moment you introduced strength, the structure began to crack. You have to flip the measure. You have been asking, why did they leave after I told the truth? Ask instead, why did this relationship require me to lie about how I felt to exist? That is a more honest question. If a friend, a partner, a parent, or a boss could enjoy you only when you were swallowing discomfort, that means they were loyal to a version of you that did not cost them anything. That is not loyalty to you, that is loyalty to comfort. Respect is worth more than harmony. Harmony without respect is cheap. It looks good to outsiders, but it rots from the inside. People smile, but they don't listen. They hug you, but they don't change. They say, "You're such a good person," while stepping over your boundaries. Machiavelli would tell a ruler, "It is better to be slightly feared and deeply respected than to be constantly praised and casually ignored." Apply that to your life. Better to be known as someone who speaks and is heard than someone who is always nice and always overlooked. Being comfortable is not rude. It is proof that you have a spine. People who can only deal with you when you are soft are telling you how fragile their position is. People who can sit through your correction, even if it stings, are telling you they value the connection more than their ego. Those are the people you build with. Those are the people you keep. A relationship that can withstand tension, can withstand the test of time. You also need to see confrontation for what it truly is: care. You do not confront what you want to abandon. You confront what you still want to work on. When a boss corrects an employee, it is because they want performance to improve. When a parent corrects a child, it is because they want that child to grow in the right direction. When you tell your partner, "This behavior is hurting me," it is because you want to stay and not decay. Indifference does not do that. Indifference stays quiet and slowly exits. So when someone says, "Why are you making drama?" after you bring up a real issue, hear what they are actually saying. "Why are you interrupting my comfort?" They want the benefits of being close to you without the responsibility of adjusting to you. They want your loyalty, your labor, your attention, but not your standards. That is not love. Love can listen, love can adjust, love can be uncomfortable for a moment so that it can be stronger for years. Now, the most challenging part. If your honesty breaks it, weakness builds it. A healthy bond is not shattered by truth. It might bend, it might pause, it might go quiet for a day, but it does not vanish. Only a bond that was resting on your compliance will collapse when you stop complying. So do not blame the blame. Confrontation. It did not kill anything. It simply removed the mask. It revealed that the other person was benefiting from your lack of boundaries. And of course, someone benefiting from no boundaries will be angry when you finally set one. Do not carry guilt for that. You did not ruin a good thing. A good thing would have absorbed feedback. A good thing would have said, "I did not see it like that, but thank you for telling me." A good thing would have been to notice that your correction was calm and that you stayed calm with yourself. A weak thing will punish you for telling the truth, because the truth threatens its advantages. Let the weak thing go. You cannot build a future on people who need you voiceless. What you are doing when you confront is restoring order. You are telling your world, this is the standard around me. Some people will rise to it, some will leave. Both outcomes are blessings. The ones who stay become a circle that is durable, honest, and politically strong in Machiavelli's language. A court that can handle reality. The ones who go were serving themselves, not the relationship. So the next time your mind says, maybe I should not have said anything, answer it with this. If it were love, it would have stayed through truth. Because the highest form of connection is not endless peace, it is enduring respect. Let truth choose who stays. Power is not proved in loud anger but in chosen timing. You spent years thinking confrontation always means losing control, so you either avoided it or exploded. Machiavelli would tell you that neither is the rule. The rule is that when you decide the terrain, you determine the hour, you choose the tone, and the other person has to meet you there. That is how princes survived rival courts, and that is how you keep authority in your house, in your work, and in your relationships. The first move is simple: control the stage. Most people confront in the wrong place, in public, in the middle of the other person's anger, or while they themselves are already hurt. That guarantees escalation. You do not walk into their storm. You do not correct them while their friends are watching. You do not bring it up when they are rushing out the door. You choose a neutral space where your words will not be swallowed by noise. You wait for the moment when they have to listen. The battle is half won before the first word is spoken. Picture a partner who embarrassed you in front of others. The weak reaction is to snap back there. The ruler's response is to wait, create privacy, look them in the eye, and say calmly, "We do not do that." The difference is in the terrain. In front of others, they will defend their ego. Alone, they must face order. Machiavelli stressed that wise rulers do not let opponents pick the ground. You are doing the same thing in miniature. You are saying, "I will not talk about this in your chaos. I will talk about it in my order." The second lever is language. When you finally confront, you do not make it only about feelings, even if you were hurt. You make it about order. Feelings can be argued with. Order cannot. Instead of saying, "You made me feel small," you say, "That behavior is not acceptable here." Instead of saying, "I hate when you are late," you say, "Our agreement was this time. That is the standard." You speak like someone restoring structure, not like someone begging for tenderness. Calm, precise, short. This matters because emotional confrontation invites debates about intention. "I didn't mean it." "You are too sensitive." "You took it the wrong way." And suddenly, the whole conversation becomes about whether your pain is valid. Order-based confrontation says, meaning aside, this crossed the line. That is non-negotiable. That is governance. You are not trying to make them feel guilty. You are giving them a map of what will and will not happen around you. Your tone must match that. Unshakable, not cold. Slow, not sarcastic. When you speak like someone whose decision is already made, people feel the boundary more than they hear it. If you cry, shout, or ramble, the focus shifts to your delivery. If you stay steady, the focus remains on their behavior. This is how you avoid losing frames. You are not asking, "Can you please treat me better?" You are declaring, "This is the level, stay or don't." Consistency is the piece that turns one good confrontation into a reputation. People do not respect a single moment of strength. They appreciate a pattern. If today you correct and tomorrow you let the same thing slide because you are lonely or tired, people will aim for a softer day. But when, over weeks and months, your reactions are stable, calm, private, ordered, consequential, your name starts to mean something. In families, they will say, "Do not do that with her, she does not allow it." At work, they will say, "Run it by him properly, he will push back." Consistency makes people self-regulate before they reach you, which is the highest form of power. But even that is not enough. Words without consequence become theater. Machiavelli warned that a prince who threatens and does not act teaches his subjects to ignore him. The same is true for you. If you say, "Do not speak to me like that," and they do, and you stay the same, you have just trained them to disrespect you faster. Confrontation ends when consequences begin. Consequences do not always mean dramatic exits. They mean proportional adjustments that make the standard real. If a friend keeps cancelling, you stop making high-effort plans with them. If a partner keeps mocking you in public, you leave the event the next time it happens. If a co-worker keeps dumping tasks, you redirect to the manager and copy them. If a relative keeps calling to unload chaos, you call back later on your time. The message is, when the line is crossed, access changes. People learn very quickly when access changes. This is how your shadow, the part of you that once feared conflict, becomes an ally. Before, your shadow made you freeze or please. Now that you know your old weakness, you plan for it. You know you tend to over-explain, so you prepare one clean sentence. You know you tend to pick bad moments, so you schedule the conversation yourself. You know you fear abandonment, so you decide in advance what you will do if they sulk. You are no longer reacting to the wound. You are governing with the knowledge of it. Understand this. Strategic confrontation is not cruelty. It is love for order. When you confront well, you give the other person a chance to stay with dignity. They do not have to guess what upset you. They do not have to walk on eggshells. They can adjust. That is the gift of clarity. People do not leave structured rulers. They leave chaotic ones. By being clear, you actually make it easier to stay close to you. And if they do not adjust, if they mock, minimize, or punish you for speaking, then your consequence will reveal what the relationship really was. That is success too. Either you gain respect or you gain truth. Both results free you from the tyranny of silence. Speak with order. Back it with action. Peace is not the absence of hard words. Peace is the knowledge that you can speak them. For years, you tried to keep everything calm by keeping yourself quiet, and all it gave you was secret tension. Machiavelli would tell you that order does not come from hoping people will behave. It comes from making it clear what happens if they do not. That clarity is what you are learning now. When you stop dreading confrontation, people around you start to relax. Not because you became softer, but because you became readable. They know what you allow and what you do not. They know you will talk to them before you resent them. They know there is a path back if something goes wrong. Chaos grows where there is guessing. Predictability grows where there is a ruler. You become that ruler in your own life when you treat correction as usual, not dramatic. This is peace through strength, not appeasement. Appeasement is you constantly adjusting so no one else has to. The strength is that everyone is changing a little because the standard is visible. In families, the parent who calmly enforces rules raises children who feel safe. In teams, the leader who gives direct feedback builds trust. In relationships, the partner who can say, "That crossed a line," keeps love from souring. People genuinely feel safer around those who speak plainly than around those who swallow everything. And you will notice something else. Your circle upgrades itself. When you begin to confront well, privately, respectfully, firmly, the people who were only there to use your silence will drift. Let them drift. They were never going to carry weight with you. The ones who stay are the ones who can handle accountability, and those are the people you can plan a future with. This is how rulers built loyal courts. They kept those who could hear the truth and released those who broke under it. Your life may become smaller, but it will become cleaner. Fewer apologies for things you did not do. Fewer nights replaying conversations in your head. Fewer relationships that operate on manipulation. You will start to see that honesty did not cost you, it filtered for you. Only the mature, the loyal, the self-aware will keep walking beside you, and that is the company you needed all along. The final change happens inside. You stop praying, "I hope they don't get mad," every time you need to say something. Instead, you think, "I can handle it if they do." That is sovereignty. You are no longer negotiating with people's potential reactions. You are standing in your own capacity. Fear leaves when capability enters. The world does not have to tiptoe for you to feel steady, because you trust yourself to restore order when it tilts. And remember, every time you choose to clarify instead of comply, you teach your nervous system a new lesson. Danger did not follow. The person might have frowned, but you survived. They might have needed time, but you stayed calm. Repeated enough times, this becomes your new default. Not panic, not people-pleasing, but deliberate leadership of your own space. That is the quiet confidence influential people carry. The belief that whatever conversation is needed, they can have it. Choose clear order over silent chaos.